Hignett corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, flips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises. It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Glance towards goal, and Rovers have taken the lead. And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the Championship.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome to our pre-match live stream ready for the Rovers v Millwall midweek game. Don't know if you noticed, but it's also the second day of the 12 days of Rovers Chat, where we are bringing you live video content or recorded video content for the next 12 days. And we are on day 2, where you get not just the pre-match, but of course you get a post-match stream after the game. I'm delighted to be joined by a panel of 3 supporting me today as usual. We have a debutant in our ranks. You've noticed him in the bottom left of the screen. It's Tom Schofield. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not so bad. Good to be on. Obviously, doing podcast bits, but it's nice to be doing something live. Mental, really, isn't it?
Indeed. Well, you have got a very high bar to get to because our last debutant is in the bottom right of this screen, and he's made a bit of a name for himself with crazily good predictions. It's Luke Kimberley back again.
How are we doing? Yeah, Merry Christmas. Christmas trees there.
Hey, there we go.
And we're on day 2 of the Rovers Chat 12 Days of Christmas, as you said, so we're all festive.
Excellent. Well, I'm in the garage, so you're just going to have to cope with the flag. The tree is up in our household, though. That went up on Saturday, so we did speak about that, didn't we? And Alex Lomax, we've got you back again, mate. How are you?
I'm good, and I just think one reference I would make to Tom making his debut tonight is we are live, so don't swear. That's an important thing. He did sort of slip up in the last podcast that we filmed, so I just thought I'd remind him of that, and there we go. That's just a bit of advice.
There we go. Well, thank you to Tom and Luke also for wearing your shirts after the day I've had today. I've not even had a chance to put my Rovers shirt on, so it will go on before the game goes on, I do promise. But I've dived from my tea and into this live stream studio, if we want to call it that, garage. But I will get that shirt on. Before we start, though, Rovers fans, of course, we are sponsored by 6yardsout.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.
Thank you to 6yardsout.com for their kind sponsorship this season. And I hope you did get your Black Friday deals with the 3 mugs for the price of 2 over the weekend. If you are not following us on Twitter, we are Rovers_chat on Twitter. And of course, please do follow us and subscribe on YouTube, which is Rovers Chat, to stay up to date with all of our content. As Andy Watson has pointed out in the comments, at the moment, it's just 12 days of Ryan Hildred and Andy Watson, which, yeah, we're on the other side. And Andy's stats look yesterday. You don't want to see our ugly faces for that long. So you will be getting more content than just the 2 of us. So there we go. And Ollie James, yes, I'm sorry, mate. I have not put that flag up properly behind me. It will go up when I do get the time. So it will go up. So let's make a start then, lads. Tom, I'm going to come to you first as our debutant tonight. We've spoken a little bit post-match last week against Barnsley about how Rovers have hit a little bit of a run of form now. It's 11 points from the last 15 available, unbeaten in 5. We've got a chance for 3 wins in a row tonight, which Rovers haven't done very often in recent years. We certainly didn't do it much in the Premier League when we were there. But chance for 3 wins in 3 before a tough next 3 games. Without putting too much pressure on the game, is this one that you're really looking at Rovers to win tonight?
I think, yeah, definitely at home as well. I think you have to expect to win your home games, especially if you're a team that's looking at getting the playoffs or a stretch, automatics. You win your home games. Millwall pose a threat, don't they? But we're in good form. We tend to be scoring goals. And I know we're going to come on to it probably, but it's going to be an interesting encounter.
Yeah, it will. And Luke, Millwall, they're going to pose a bit of a difficulty tonight for us, I think, with, we've seen us struggle against sides like Nottingham Forest and Cardiff and Middlesbrough that have come up to defend. I think Lucas last night on the other side made it quite clear that that's what Millwall are going to do tonight. I think Tom's touched on it there. You do have to turn the frustrating draws or defeats into those wins, don't you, if we do want to be getting ourselves into that top six. And actually, before we play those three sides, that's perfect, because if we go and beat those three sides who we play next, we actually get ourselves into the top six even more, don't we?
Yeah, I read a stat today, actually, that Rovers are one of the teams in the Championship that once scoring first haven't lost. So they've won in fact, they've won every game when we've scored first. So I think that's important today, to not let them frustrate us for 70, 80 minutes of a game and then try and nick one. I think if we go at them, try and get an early goal, hopefully we can, use the momentum from the last few games, take it forward and just get the win, get the win over the line, because ultimately we've got to have one eye on Saturday, which is a big game as well. But we've got to get this one over the line first, of course.
Yeah, we have. And Alex, when we were speaking to Lucas yesterday, Millwall are exactly like Rovers at the moment and carrying a lot of injuries, particularly to key players. I think even Jake Cooper tonight, for example, might be missing. Do you think that those injuries and the way that Millwall have been playing recently is just going to suggest it's going to be more of the same tonight? Or could they surprise us and go for us a little bit? What are you expecting?
I'm not expecting a surprise from Millwall, if I'm being honest with you. I think they play the same way against every team. I did watch part of on the other side last night, and he did remark, didn't he, that the Millwall fan, that they mainly play 5 at the back and really only play 4 at the back when it's a game that is nailed on to win, like a Wickham, for example, or something like that. So I'm not expecting a tactical change from them. Obviously, you mentioned Jake Cooper's injury. I think that's a big factor. I'll be looking out to see if they're as solid in defence as they normally are. Obviously, they've not scored many this season, but equally, they've conceded less than we have as well. So you've certainly got to balance that out. I'll be looking for us to start well, unlike at Luton and then home to Barnsley. We need to get a goal early today. The longer the game goes on, as Luke alluded to before, the longer the game goes on, the more I think we'll sense like a set piece going against us. And then obviously it's really difficult then, because you'll then get all the gamesmanship that we all know about. So yeah, it's a really key game tonight with the fixtures upcoming as well. But I think it's a game we can win if we turn up. But obviously with Rovers, it's all about will we turn up, because we've been burnt too many times, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, definitely. And I think we've got a graphic which shows Millwall's recent form. And one that Lucas actually gave us yesterday was the fact that Adam Armstrong has scored more goals than Millwall. But this is a strange old record, I think, because I was speaking about this yesterday with Lucas. They've only lost twice, which is actually the same as the top 3 at the moment. But it's those 8 draws that, that is staring at them coming to frustrate Rovers at Ewood Park. Tom, what do you think Rovers are going to have to do tonight to stop Millwall stifling us? And, look at that goals for and goals against record for Millwall. They want this game to be 1-0 or 0-0, don't they? So what have we got to do to stop that from happening?
Make sure that we don't do what we did against the likes of Nottingham Forest. It's easier said than done, isn't it, in terms of breaking teams down? But they need to utilise Armstrong, make sure that our play goes through him. Rovers play best when we play to our strengths, as every team does. I think on occasion this season, against those games against Cardiff and Nottingham Forest, we failed to do that. Not got Armstrong involved enough. I think he's the key. If Armstrong can turn up and we can provide chances for him, he's going to score. So I think that's the big one, just creating chances. Easier said than done, I know, but something we need to look at doing.
Yeah, that's right. And Luke, I think what's helped us today and in this game was getting that win against Barnsley, wasn't it? We've taken the pressure off this one. If it does end up as a draw, it's not a massively disastrous result when you're looking at Millwall's record there. So it's good that we're not playing with that complete pressure that we potentially lost to Barnsley and then must win against Millwall. Because when you're looking at this Millwall record, a must win against Millwall is actually quite difficult to achieve, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, pressure's off sort of thing, and momentum's with us. So if we can just take a bit of momentum into this game, and we just need to start quickly, because Millwall have only conceded 1 goal in the first 15 minutes, and they've actually only scored 1 in the first 30. So you know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to sit back and frustrate early doors. So I think that's what it's all going to be about. We need to take momentum from Barnsley, and we need to hit this game hard and get hit the ground running pretty quickly. I think we keep harking back to it, don't we? The longer this game goes on, the more frustrating a night it's going to be for Rovers.
That's right. I'm just going to pick up the comments here, because actually they take us nicely into the next question, which I'll come to you with, Alex. But just to round off that, Matthias BRFC scored 2 and conceded 2 in their last 5 games. Will be tough tonight. Yeah, we've seen that record. That's nonsense, really, for 5 games for that amount of goals. But where we're going to move the conversation to now, there's a couple of comments here. Luke Howard, Sam Gallagher to start. And then Matthias again, big game for Gallagher, will be very physical and can see him winning it for us, hopefully starts. So Alex, I'm going to come to you. We spoke, I think, pre and post match in the Barnsley game, actually, that Bradley Johnson and Sam Gallagher both came on and made a really good impact for Rovers against Barnsley. And then you're looking at this game as well, despite the fact that we're probably going to need some skillful players to unlock Millwall a little bit. Can you see Bradley Johnson and Sam Gallagher both starting tonight and making that impact?
I think both will start, and I think when we go on to our team selections prior to 7:15, I think that'll be borne out in my team that I've picked for the game. I thought it was very harsh to drop Gallagher prior to the Barnsley game. Everyone knows I'm not Gallagher's biggest fan, but I thought he was a cert to get in on Saturday, and I think Mowbray alluded to the fact after the game that he thought he might have got it slightly wrong with playing Elliott there, and it wasn't really the game for him. Although Elliott does tend to come up with a goal-creating pass once a match, even if he's not played that well. So, that's certainly something to take account of. But the thing that I'm interested in, I think it's really been something that I've been thinking about, is do we try and play Millwall at their own game? Is playing Gallagher sort of and trying to play a bit longer than we have done this season, is that suiting Millwall down to a T? Will they thrive on us hitting a lot of long balls diagonally into Gallagher, trying to get up the pitch? Will we be playing into their hands? Would we be better off going, like you say, for a more skillful player like an Elliott, or maybe Elliott dropping into the midfield 3? So I think these are all interesting conundrums, to be honest. I think he will go for Gallagher. There's no doubt about that. I'll just be interested to see what tactical approach we will use today. Because I think at times this season, if there's any criticism I can make, it's that we tend to go out there and try and outplay the opposition in every game. And I think we've come unstuck a couple of times, particularly I'd say at Watford, when I thought we did play really well, but we didn't really think about the threats of the opposition, and we got punished. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the interesting thing today, what approach we'll take tactically. But I do think Gallagher will start tonight.
And Tom, Alex has raised a few variables that I think are at play here, and Andy's just picked it up in the comments as well. So Andy Watson, annoyingly, we want Gally defensively, but Elliott going forward. Any chance of that being allowed? One of our viewers on Saturday raised another interesting angle, and I think Mowbray's referenced it in pre-match press as well. Ben Brereton's played so many minutes recently and must be due for a rest. So with that in mind, do you go Gallagher for his physicality, give Brereton a rest? Where are you in terms of who you would play in that front 3 and why are you playing them there?
I think it'd be harsh not to play Gallagher. But then I also think it's harsh not playing Elliott and Brereton. I guess that's the benefit of having a strong front line. I do edge towards Gallagher just because I think that physicality, he can rough them up. Elliott's the perfect super sub. I know there's that. People talk about super subs. I think, well, if he's good enough to come on as a sub, make an impact. Surely he can from the start. We know what Elliott can do. When some tired legs, though, he can just use that intricacies that he's got on the ball and cause problems. So I think Gallagher's my go-to. I know you mentioned Brereton as well. I don't think you can drop him or Armstrong. Obviously, not dropping Armstrong, but sort of lump Brereton in with that. He's due a rest. I think it could come soon, but I don't think tonight's the night.
And Luke, just picking up on that, there are two sides on a football pitch. So Millwall, we will expect to have their own corners, their own set pieces and things like that. Gallagher, of course, brings some height into set pieces, as does Brereton. But that's also what Bradley Johnson brings, doesn't he? If we've got him back in the side, he's going to be winning those headers both in that central midfield area and also defensively when we've got set pieces as well, isn't he? So he's important tonight. Yeah,
absolutely. And we could, we're going to be reliant on him driving forward a bit as well and not sitting too deep because they're going to be quite packed in that, in the centre of the park as well. They're going to try and frustrate all over the pitch. So Bradley Johnson's going to have to be everywhere tonight. I mean, Jeb Wallace is always that player that really frustrates Rovers every time we've played Millwall. Jeb Wallace is there or thereabouts. He chips in with goals and he's frustrating in the centre of the park. It's going to be a good battle, that one tonight, I think.
Yeah, it is. And Alex, just to take this into another direction as well, Anthony Towers has made a comment here. Rothwell's surging runs could be the key this evening. So Rothwell really was the man that grabbed that Luton game by the scruff of the neck, didn't he, when we were getting frustrated? Do you think Rothwell's going to have to do that again tonight and potentially go and get that ball from deep and start driving us forward, particularly if Millwall are sat back a bit?
It's interesting because I think Rothwell certainly is the key to a lot of our improvements this season. I think when he's in that midfield three, it just really kind of knits the midfield and the attack together and makes it one unit, I would say. I think the thing for me is I think Rothwell's played his best football when other teams have been coming on to us. I think even the Luton game, for example, it was really when Luton had their best spell of the match, when they were kind of pressuring us slightly. That's when we saw Rothwell making those driving runs at the defence. I'm unsure tonight whether playing against just such a low block, which I think we will be playing against in all likelihood, whether he'll just be running into bodies, which is sort of what happened against Borough when he came on. So I hope so. I hope Rothwell is the difference tonight. I think the big conundrum of this season so far, and it's something we haven't seen yet, is beating a team that comes to Ewood playing for a point. We've not managed to do that this season yet. We played Cardiff at home, which I thought we shaded that game. We were unlucky not to win that, really 1-0. Then the Forest game where we were pretty unlucky with the deflection late on. We've not beaten a team that's come to Ewood to frustrate yet. So this is still a real unknown quantity for me. And I think this sort of game is what makes or breaks our season, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think the away games at Bristol and Brentford make or break our season. If we win one and draw one, we're not crying about it. We can make ground up. The more these kind of home games where we don't pick up wins, they're the games that matter, really. So, yeah, I hope they're the difference. I really do hope they're the difference. And we've always said this, haven't we, that Rothwell can be the best player or the worst player in the team. And really nobody knows what you're going to get from one game to the next with him. I just hope he's on his good night tonight. And I think he is pretty due a goal, so you never know on that one.
Yeah. And Tom, I think with our injuries this season, we've not really felt the benefit of our squad depth compared to some of the other teams that much this season. Certainly speaking to Lucas yesterday, their problems are way worse than ours. It felt like on Saturday, for the first time, that we had some options on the bench to change the game. And Anthony Towers has made a comment here. Having 5 subs means he can change it during the match if it isn't working. That could be the key today, couldn't it? So if he's gone for Gallagher, for example, over Elliott, he's got those options off the bench, hasn't he? Just to completely change the game and try and get behind Millwall.
Yeah, definitely. I think you look at two you mentioned, one you mentioned just then, but another one, Tyrese Dolan, sort of 2 players that can come on, stretch the defence. And it takes that little bit of magic that both of them possess, and all of a sudden the game has been turned on its head. I think you're right in saying we've not really felt the benefit, but the past couple of weeks, it's started to come to the forefront in that Gallagher's come on and made a positive impact. We've been able to turn to Elliott in the Preston game, albeit he did get injured. Dolan in the Preston game. We've got players that can come on and make an impact. And I think it's good that we're finally seeing that. I know a few comments talk about Dak as well. And when he comes back, that only adds to the fact that we have, or we could have, a really, really strong bench that means in an instant we can turn a game on its head.
And it's ultimately a squad game, isn't it? You know, you just look at games like the United game on Saturday or Sunday, whenever it was, when they play Southampton. You're bringing on someone like Cavani and he's changing the game. And at championship level, that's what we need. If you're bringing on players like Dolan and Elliott, Buckley, who can pick out a pass, you know, that's the difference compared to some of the subs that we've had. So, yeah, I can see the bench making an impact tonight. I really can, particularly if it's a game that's frustrating us. So I'm going to move us on then, Luke, just to talk about a player who probably isn't going to play tonight, but it is worth a 5-minute chat, and it's Connor Mahoney, who I think divides the fan base a little bit, particularly with the way that he left the club. Are you firstly happy that he's not playing, particularly if you're a superstitious fan like me?
I'm a happy, yes. So I think any Rovers fan, if they turn around and say that they didn't want Connor Mahoney to stay when he did leave, would be lying. Yes, we were all disappointed, and that's now divided a lot of Rovers fans. But at the time, it was sort of one of our own, weren't it? And you could see him bursting onto the scene. Really, he seemed to have it all as a young player. A bit of a rough diamond, weren't he? I mean, you look at him and compare it with Dolan a bit now, but I think actually we've got a gem in Dolan that's got a bit more end product. I think that's what Connor Mahoney really liked. He had he was quick, great feet, great ball control, but he just didn't seem to do enough in the final third. Didn't have that killer instinct as such. But like I say, he was a young player, and he certainly looked like he had a great potential. So it was sad to see him go. I think if he was playing tonight, you just know inevitably he'd chip in, because that's what ex-Rovers players do when you really don't want them to perform. So, it's you never want to see a player missing out through, I presume, injury. It's sad. He's clearly not had a great run of games since he's left Rovers. He's been in and out with Birmingham as well. So, good luck to the lad. But yeah, we look on to the players we've got now, and hopefully we can develop the likes of Dolan and players like that, and Mahoney can look on at a missed chance perhaps.
And Alex, Connor Mahoney, if he looks back at his career now, possibly that Bournemouth move was the wrong one for him to make, and arguably he'd probably be a big part of our squad now if he'd stayed at us. You know, he could have been part of that successful League One side that got promoted, and you know, when you're playing the likes of Elliott Bennett on the wing, for example, you know, with the greatest respect to Elliott Bennett, Connor Mahoney's probably going to take that spot, isn't he? So do you think Mahoney might look on with a little bit of regret that he left Rovers, or it's a Premier League club in Bournemouth, you've got to go and take that move?
I think really this was something that I was sad about during the League One season, to be honest. I think I've moved on since then. I think, if you want my honest opinion, I think he probably agreed to leave before Mowbray became manager. Mowbray came in late February, didn't he? And obviously Mahoney was free to talk to clubs from that January onwards, with only 6 months left of his deal. So I think he'd already made up his mind before then, and who can blame him with the, I don't think I'm being too undiplomatic in saying that the club was a mess, in that particular time. And I do believe, I'm not Mowbray's biggest fan, as Ryan knows all too well, but I think one thing that I will give him immense credit for is the transformation of the club, and the attitudes around the club, and the mood around the club, and the structure of the club is just light years ahead of what it was 3.5 years ago. And all credit goes to Mowbray for that. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. You know, if I was Mahoney and had died in the Wool Rovers fan, I think even I would have left that summer. You know, that was the predicament the club was in. And I think if we cast our minds back to that summer, I actually think many fans were pessimistic about bouncing back from League One, just due to the trajectory of the club in the bigger picture. And I think with that in mind, I think it can be tempting to rewrite history, looking back on it, having known that we got promoted straight back, you know, that he would have stuck with us. But I think the offer of a Premier League club and obviously a massive increase in salary, rather than staying at a club that at that time at least didn't look like it was going to bounce back, I don't really begrudge him that, to be honest with you. And, you know, he's still a Rovers fan, and just let him get on with the rest of his career. We've got our own players now, and let's concentrate on our own business and our own players and stop worrying about players of other clubs. I think that's what I would say.
And Tom, I'm going to ask you the final question on Mahoney. Probably a bit of a cheeky one. If we had successfully kept Conor Mahoney and he was a big part of that League One side, let's say that Mowbray said, right, you're going to start every game, I'm going to have you in an influential position. Could you have foreseen a situation where we might not have signed Bradley Dack, for example, if we'd kept Mahoney?
It's funny you said that, because when everyone was talking just then, I was in my head thinking about the fact that Mahoney probably would have been that creative player. And again, the question probably comes to you, who would you rather have in your 11, Bradley Dack or Conor Mahoney now? And I think 99.9% of Rovers fans would probably say Bradley Dack. It's a possibility. It's a shame with Mahoney. I think we messed him around quite a lot. I know he was told he was going to play on occasions and then didn't play. I know it affected him when he got booed and he came back. It's funny because I think I tweeted at the time when he came back in with Birmingham, I think it was in 2018. I think I put some tweet up saying, "Oh, ignore him," because I'm just kissing his backside, really. But I think he messaged me afterwards just saying, "Oh, thanks, mate. Good to be back home." So I think all that probably affects him the way that it went down, and the way that some Rovers fans have responded since. But it's understandable on both sides. Would I rather have Mahoney or Dack? It's Bradley Dack all day long. Yeah,
funny how history turns out, isn't it? But certainly Mahoney was a player that excited me when he played in that back end of the Championship season, and it is a shame he didn't stay. And I think the majority of the comments that we've got here are in support of Mahoney. So Alexander Haben, I was sad when he left us. Good luck to him. Leap Year Man, frustration with Mahoney is what might have been wasted move, only to be playing at the same level as now. Stand and stare, even with us, he lacked consistency. Alexander Haben, comeback Mahoney. And then, stand and stare, Dacky, a totally different player than Mahoney. So, an interesting one, Mahoney, but we did just want to talk about him a little bit tonight. So the team news is going to land in about 5 or so minutes' time. But before we do that, we're going to do the usual run through our teams, where we will all pick one player to focus on to say why we are picking them. Tom, you get the benefit of going first today because you are the debutant. So particularly, I'm looking at players in your team there: Ayala, Gallagher, Bell. Just want to pick one of those. Why have you picked them, and what you're expecting from them?
I'll go Ayala, just because we've already spoke a bit about Gallagher. Simply because I don't think if Wharton's not fit, that's my thinking behind it. I think it'd be a good time to give Wharton just a rest, make sure he's okay, and bring Ayala's physicality to try and counteract Millwall. He also brings that set piece threat. I know that sounds silly for a centre half, but yeah.
I think, and just to stick with you, Tom, when Ayala, I think there was a lot of discussion on this stream and on some of Andy's shows and other stuff that Ayala and Lenihan as a pairing, I think they're both right-footed. It can look a bit awkward, and certainly that Watford game, Ismail Assar and Hal Pedro were getting down that channel between Bell and Ayala. Is this a good game to potentially bring Ayala back if Millwall aren't going to be breaking those lines and driving in that same way that Watford did that night?
Yeah, it might potentially be an easier game to bring him into. I think in a perfect world, you start Wharton, but I think with his injury, I don't think that he will be risked. I may be wrong with that. I don't know. But yeah, I think, like you say, it's a nice time to bring Ayala back in and hopefully, like I say, counteract some of their physicality.
Yeah. And just picking up a comment here, Leap Year Man, Ayala a bit of an injury risk if we start him first game back. And then stand and stare. Johnson and Ayala key for me. Johnson for the strength, Ayala to back up Bell. So I think there is a risk there, Leap Year Man, with bringing Ayala in. Yeah, we'll see how he goes with that. But yeah, I think it's potentially a good one to bring Ayala back in. So, Alex, I think we're on to your side. Mate, if you want to pick a different player to talk about. You've gone for Scott Wharton, for example, but this is your team, so don't let me force you to talk about someone.
Well, I think I will talk about Scott Wharton because we've only briefly mentioned him, and we alluded to the fact that he is potentially not going to play today. I think I would be so disappointed for him after coming in really as the last resort option after Williams getting injured and just coming in, and I think it's really surprising everybody. I don't think there's anything, there's no doubt about that. He came in and just looked all the world like a championship centre-half to me. Just really good at the basics of defending. That's the sort of thing we've been crying out for so long. I agree with Ryan when you just said there that I have my doubts about Ayala and Lenihan together. I think they have, when we've played a good side, there's been some doubts there and there's been some in-out, shake it all about, swapping the positions in the back line, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't think that really breeds the consistency that you need. So that's a concern for me. So I think I would stick with Wharton if he's fit. I just think he's on a run of games now. His confidence is high. I think it would damage him if he was dropped, if it wasn't absolutely necessary. Like, for example, for the medical reason that he has concussion and he's physically not allowed to play. But if at all possible, I would stick with the back line that we went with on Saturday.
And Stand and Stairs raised an interesting question here, or point. I have a feeling Wharton could be baited into scrapping with this lot. Now, Alex, I'll just stick with you because you spoke about Wharton. When I spoke on the other side with Lucas yesterday, I did comment that Wharton's dealt really well with some big strikers in recent games, hasn't he? And Reese from Preston and Lyndon Dykes. If they do go for Matt Smith today, could you see Matt Smith just doing that naughty side, what Stand and Stare has said there, just getting into that tussle with him and getting into a scrap and getting under his skin a little bit?
If anyone can deal with the dark arts of football, it should be Scott Wharton because he's spent 3 years in League Two. And anyone who has watched League Two football, me in particular, because I used to go to Exeter City for a couple of seasons, it's incredibly physical. It's incredible. There's a lot of dark arts going on. And I think if anyone's equipped in our backline to deal with it, it should be Scott Wharton. So really, I don't have any doubts about the physical aspect of the game for him. Not really.
Yeah. And just to draw everyone's attention to what's going across on the ticker. So Jacob from Lancs Live is telling us that Dan Pike is at Ewood and could be on the bench for Rovers. So good to see another academy prospect making the grade and the match day squad. So Luke, we're going to come on to your side. If you just want to pick out a player that you are starting and make the case for them if you can.
Yeah, I think before I just start talking about my player, that Daniel Pike one's an interesting one. Mowbray clearly watches us on the Rovers Chat, doesn't he? He does. The other way. Yeah, so I'll speak about Elliot and, in a sense, Brereton. So I've been one of Brereton's biggest admirers, even when he's been getting pelters, because I knew there was something there from when he were a young lad at Forest, and I was just waiting for it to come out. So this is by no means against Brereton. Why I've opted away from him today. Let's say I think, like Tom alluded to, he's due a rest. He's been ever present in the team this year, and he's been phenomenal. He would give us a physical presence in this game, but I'm worried it's a long season. We've got Gallagher in there as a physical presence in my 11. And I'd just like to see Elliot. He's got a left foot, and I know he likes coming off the right, but I'd just like to see him drive and give us a bit of width today, because they do play 5 at the back. But I mean, anyone who plays a flat back five. I've never seen that. So there's going to be space in behind clearly. So if Elliott can, drive in that and maybe pull some balls back and utilise Armstrong in and around that box, I think that might be key to us getting something today. And like I say, no disrespect to Brereton, he would play if I didn't think that a rest would do him some good, because we've got a big game Saturday.
No, I agree. And I can't remember the phrase Mowbray used to describe Brereton. I think he was talking about the injuries and specifically how he would manage Ryan Nyambi's injury. And then he started talking about other players. I can't remember if he said in the trenches, on his knees, something like that for Brereton, just to describe the fact that he's like literally putting it all in at the moment. So, if Brereton plays, then great. We know what he brings. But absolutely, if he's rested tonight, I can understand that. So, onto my side, I was just looking at the comments there. Onto my side, I really tossed up and weighed up between Barry Douglas and Amari Bell. So hopefully Douglas is past fit. If he's not, then I've got no problem with Amari Bell playing. But the reason I went Douglas over Bell is my prediction. I've gone for 1-0 Rovers, because I could see us scraping a set piece or a penalty or something like that. So if it is a Barry Douglas corner or a free kick or something like that, I just want Barry Douglas on the pitch to put in a good set piece. As strong as they are from set pieces, that might actually win the game for us and turn that 0-0 into a 1-0. So that was the main reason for going for Douglas, really, particularly as I hope there isn't too much of a threat in behind him and he should have enough to cope with what Millwall have got. But yeah, it was a real tough one between Douglas and Bell, and especially because Bell's not done that much wrong at all. So I'm not going to ask you three for the side, because I know you're checking your phones. I'm going to wait for I'm waiting for the ticker, and I'm not looking at the. I'm not looking.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is.
I think I don't think any of us got it right, have we? I think
I like it though. I do like it. I think that's
certainly interesting. Right? Very interesting.
Well, I'm going to wait for Dan to roll it on the ticker just to add a bit of. Here we go.
There it is. The suspense.
Oh, that is very interesting. So,
and there's no Pike. There's no Pike in the squad. So.
Oh, no Pike. So Kaminsky, Nyambi, Lenihan, Ayala instead of Wharton, Bell instead of Douglas. So those two have obviously not been risked. Johnson and Holtby, who look to be, sitting in that area with Elliott just in front. That looks like Gallagher, Brereton, Armstrong. So that is interesting. So instant reactions, Tom. We did talk post-match against Barnsley that we thought that Mowbray might use resting Brereton as like an easy, not get out of jail, but just an easy way of getting Gallagher into the side and to reward him. So do you think he's ultimately looked at that and thought, I need Brereton in my side, so I'm going to look at another area to try and get Gallagher in, hence why he's gone for Elliott in that position tonight?
Yeah, I think that he's looked at Brereton and thought, I can't really drop him, like I said. He wanted to get Gallagher in. But I think this will be an interesting trial for how you fit Bradley Dack in this Rovers team. I think Elliott seems to be playing the midfield role. I imagine he's going to be in that number 10. So it could be an interesting trial. Like I said, if Mowbray is saying, right, okay, let's say this works. We can fit Elliott in that number 10. We can also use Gallagher's physicality. I do actually really like it. I think you will miss Rothwell, the drive of Rothwell. But like Alex, you said, when you play with teams that are dropping back, he doesn't necessarily have the space to make his darting runs. So maybe that's something he's looked at. And looked at the fact, well, let's have a look at the intricacies of Elliott and he can play that pass. It is a very interesting side. It got me quite amped up, I won't lie. It's endorphins flying around my body now, just mental.
Got off 5 minutes.
So, Luke, I'm going to come to you. Instant reaction on the side. Joe Rothwell not playing. Amari Bell is playing. Just what's standing out for you with this side that, over and above what Tom's just said?
Yeah, well, going with what Tom said, really, it looks like we're playing with a front forward there. And that, to me, is exciting. So I think Mowbray's wanting to take this game to Millwall straight away. We've got the physicality on both wings now, because Brereton's now a big boy. He's filled out and he likes to run at people. Gallagher's the same. He seems to have done that the past couple of games. So we're going to be utilising that. And I think Elliott's going to have a lot of space. Hopefully, he's going to be able to play in that pocket a little bit. Armstrong's going to benefit from that, in my opinion. And when we're talking about Rothwell's darting runs, I think I alluded to it earlier that actually the physicality of Johnson now might be able to give us something in terms of taking the ball forward a little bit. And I can see Holtby at times dropping a little bit deeper, maybe spraying the ball a bit, trying to open Millwall up if he needs to, and allowing Johnson to get forward a little bit more. So pretty excited. And on a side note as well, I really hope Iola has a decent game tonight. I think that he has struggled when he's been in the side, but he hasn't had a run of it. And like you said today, he's an aerial threat. And can you see Millwall doing anything else than pumping the ball forward? So hopefully he wins a few early headers, gets a bit of confidence, and that's a platform for Iola to move forward a little bit. So really, really positive that side.
Yeah, Rovers fans, give us your reaction to that side in the comments. Some of you have already done that. Just to run through the subs for Rovers tonight, it's Pears, obviously, sub-goalkeeper, Carter, Davenport, Tribal, Buckley, Downing, Rothwell, Chapman and Dolan. Just a bit of team news for Millwall. No Jake Cooper tonight, which is good. Thanks, Liam Scott, for letting us know that one. Instant reactions from the Rovers fans here. Matthias, BRFC, sad for Wharton, but that is a quality team. I'm now going for a 2-0 win. Stand and stare. Elliot may feel he has a point to prove, being quiet the past couple of games, except one pass. Ryan Lambert, Elliot going to end up playing centre-half at this rate. Looks like he's here to play regardless. Abi Sahar, Elliot brings in more creativity, and since they have 5 at the back, Rothwell would have had a tough day penetrating the defence, but he will bring speed as a sub when the defence are tiring. Absolutely. Ollie James, I think that team news confirms that Elliot has to play a certain amount of games. Harsh for Rothwell to be dropped. I feel he is the key player to make the press work. Stand and stare. Holtby will sit back a bit, I think, linked with Elliot and let him go. Alexander Haben, a clever pass from Holtby could be the key. Leby, 1989, good side IC Golds. Leap year man, I like the boldness of the side. Elliot got isolated last game, will be able to influence in the middle. And then stand and stare. Feel we might see Buckley and Chapman on tonight if things aren't progressing. So, Alex, I'm just going to come to you for your instant reaction. Looks a strong bench again that we can call on some good options, but also the starting 11 I think has gone down pretty well. Is that where you are? Are you happy with that side?
I'd go along the interesting route with this one. I think you look at the lineup and there's certainly a logic to it. I think he certainly wants that physical side of the game at the very front end of the pitch, but he's also looking for that craft and creativity in the middle. And I think when Tom referenced it just before, but when I spoke about Rothwell maybe not being as effective when teams play very deep against us, he can't make those driving runs really. He's not as effective. And I think maybe he will be more effective coming on late in the game. Say we're 1-0 up and Millwall fight in the last 20 minutes, try and be a bit more adventurous. Maybe Rothwell will be the player to bring on at that stage and try and hurt Millwall. So yeah, there's certainly logic to the team. I've not got any issues with it. Although the stats don't lie, as Rich Sharps just tweeted, is that the points we've accumulated with Rothwell in the team compared to when he's not in the team is pretty interesting. I think it was something like 17 points when he's in the team and 4 points when he's not. So, yeah, I mean, you can't really argue with that, can you? It's something that hopefully we'll put right tonight, I suppose. But, yeah, I'll just address Anthony's question there about 4-4-2 or 4-2-4. I don't think it's likely that we'll deviate from the 4-3-3, if I'm being honest with you. We've not really deviated from that all season. Not that I can remember anyway. And I think it would be pretty surprising if we did that. I think it will probably be Johnson in the middle. Maybe would you put Holtby on the left side or the right side and then Elliot on the other side? I think Elliot can play either side really. He's that good. So, yeah, I doubt it would be a 4-4-2 if I'm being honest with you. It's most likely a 4-3-3, I would say. But, yeah, an interesting team. We'll see how we get on and... Let's hope we're praising Mowbray at the end of the game for his wisdom.
Definitely. Just to give you the Millwall starting 11, Bilikowski in goal, Murray Wallace, Sean Hutchinson, Sean Williams, Jed Wallace, Marlon Romeo, Scott Malone, Alex Pearce, Ryan Woods, John Daddy Bodvarsson, who does have a history at Ewood Park, scoring 2 for Reading, if we all remember that game, and Troy Parrott is also playing. Just want to pick up a comment here, Tom, from Ryan Lambert. Game is won or lost in the 1v1 battles tonight. No room for passengers against Millwall. So with that side that I've just read out there for Millwall, are there any 1v1 battles that you think are particularly important?
I think Johnson in the midfield, all of them really. I think that's the big one. If Johnson can dominate and control that midfield, then Rovers will be okay. I think Johnson, like I said, all the midfielders for me. It's the big battle. The battle is in the midfield. If Johnson can get hold of that ball and just give it off to Holtby and Elliott, you know the quality they possess and the things that they can do with the football.
Yeah. And Luke, looking at the bench for Millwall, Matt Smith's on the bench, Tom Bradshaw's on the bench, and then a few kind of other Championship steady eddies. Millwall have got that in their locker, though, haven't they? So we've spoken about Rovers having a strong bench. If they're bringing on someone like Matt Smith, that's going to be a bit of an ace in the pack if they need to go that way.
Yeah, Matt Smith's always been a handful at this level. He's got goals and he's made a nuisance of himself. But it's Bradshaw for me that is a bit of a threat. 'Cause he's a slightly different player, and he's a player that at the same time when Armstrong was banging goals in for Coventry, he was doing the same at, I think it was Barnsley back then. So 2 players that at that point I were really quite fond of. Luckily we have Armstrong in our hold now, and I hope that Bradshaw doesn't come back to haunt. But I think another one's Bodvarsson, but he starts obviously, and he's a real handful. When he was at Reading, he's always got goals against us, real aerial threat. So I'd like to see him up against Iola today. And like I said it before, Iola wins a few early headers, gets his confidence, and although the game's won in the midfield, I absolutely agree with Tom on that. I'd just like to see us not concede tonight, and I think if we do the basics right, we don't concede, because although they have got threats in places, I don't think it's enough to cause us any problems other than what we know with Route 1. So deal with the Route 1, and I think everything else falls into place if we win that midfield battle.
Yeah. And Alex, I'm going to come to you in a moment, but just to pick up some of the comments here. Cameron Hannan, they've set up for a 0-0 or cheeky 1-0. We have gone for an attacking lineup. Chance for Gallagher to try and cement a place in the starting 11. Stand and Stare, definitely hoping for a good game tonight. Ben Smith, depth of squad on show. Abi Sahar, Bilikowski is super underrated. One of the better goalies. He can keep the goal by himself. Yeah, top keeper at this level. Abi. And then Andy Morrison needed to bring more physicality into the team for tonight, so looks a decent 11. And then Lee B, hoping we get a quick start and not let it be flat. Sure, we will bag a few tonight though. But Alex, I'm going to come back to a comment. Where have I lost it? Michael Pearson, here we go. Sorry, Dan, it's a little bit up the comments. Michael Pearson, gamble of a selection, Mowbray has gone all in. Now, we were talking about at the start of this stream, how you need to turn draws into wins and win games like this if you're going to threaten the playoffs. So we should be happy that Mowbray's gambled a little bit and gone to win this game, shouldn't we?
I think we should be happy. I think this game plan that Mowbray's obviously employed depends on us not doing what we did against Reading, which is not losing concentration in the first 10 seconds would be a good start. And I think really this game hinges on not conceding the first 10 to 15 minutes, in my view. If we concede early, I think we're in for a long night. I really do think we're in for a long, long night. So keep it solid, keep it secure for the first 20, 25 minutes, then start playing, then start probing, doing what we've been doing all season. I think we are the top goal scorers in the division. And if you look at all of the stats, we deserve to be. We deserve to be the top goal scorers based on the way we've played, the amount of shots we've had, the amount of chances we've created. You know, these are all facts. They stand to be seen. So I just thought we carry on the way we've carried on. And I just thought that the Millwall injuries affect them in a way that means that they're maybe not as solid as they have been in previous matches, because I think 5 draws in a row, surely that's got to come to an end at some point. I hope it's tonight, and I hope they lose. So that's my opinion on it, really.
Excellent. So Rovers fans, will end the stream in about 5 minutes' time. So before we do that, please hit us with your score predictions and how you think the game is going to go. Now that you've seen Mowbray's, fairly experimental side, but a nice side. I think we all agree that we like it. So hit us with your predictions. We will pick them up before we finish the show. Tom, I'm going to come to you. He's gone for Amari Bell over Barry Douglas. Let's just focus on Amari Bell before we finish. Are you expecting Bell to drive forward tonight and show his attacking intent? Or do you think he's just going to have, just a standard solid performance? What's Mowbray going to be asking of Bell tonight?
I hope he does drive forward. I think that he brings a bit of pace, doesn't he? I always feel like he's holding himself back a little bit. He seems to have all the attributes, but then the last minute just seems to not put in the cross, or he'll beat his man, then check back on himself. I'd like to think he's going to be going all out, putting an impressive attacking performance, and really try and push Millwall back. Like I said, there's going to be running behind. And if we can dominate attacking, dominate the wings, hopefully. It's Rovers for taking, Bell's position there for the taking. It's good that Douglas is brilliant, but we need someone that's going to be there behind him as well, and that can also say, hang on, I want to be starting as well. Because it's worth noting, Bell wasn't in terrible form when Douglas came in. He was probably starting to have some of the best form of his Rovers career. So it's an interesting one, the left back. I hope that he does show his attacking prowess tonight.
And Luke, we've got an option tonight. As much as Millwall are strong at the back, if we do need to do something a little bit differently, particularly without Jake Cooper, if we do get Bell and Nyambi forward and can lay it back for someone like Holtby crossing the ball in, we have got Brereton and Gallagher both starting, who could be an aerial threat in the box if we did want to go that way, couldn't we? If we do want to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We can. We've got some height in there, and even if we were to, if it is looking like a game that's going to frustrate and we have to throw caution to the wind at some point, we've got height in the likes of Iola, and if we've got to win it through a set piece, so we've got to win it through other means, then we will have to do that. There's going to be times in this game where it is going to be frustrating. I think we'll be naive, and we'd be, there's a lot of optimism on this chat, and it's great to see. A lot of the comments are really optimistic, but like I say, we would be absolutely naive to think that this game is not going to have 15-minute, half an hour spells where we are really, really frustrated. And in the past, we've talked about Mowbray maybe not having a plan B. We've got the options to do it today. So if we need to mix it up and we don't mix it up, then there's got to be something strange going on there. So for me, we will see changes throughout the game. We'll see, we'll see what we're all about, and we'll see that strength in depth hopefully come to the forefront today a little bit, and hopefully serve us well.
Definitely. Alex, I'm going to start with you then, just as we finish for score predictions. So what is your prediction for the game? How do you think it's going to go?
Brace yourselves. You need to film this in the archives. I'm actually predicting a Rovers win.
Oh, we're in trouble, boys.
Yeah, the only other time I predicted us to win this year was the Reading game. So, oh dear. I'll go for a 1-0 Rovers win, and I'll go for Lewis Holtby to score because he's not scored in a long time.
Nice. You're not going to go for the 7-2 then? Let Lee B's put in the comments.
Nice
again.
prediction.
If it's 7-2, he can get it tattooed on his backside. That's how confident he should be. You should bet that in the comments.
I can't see it being 7-2 because I can't see us conceding. So I think he's wrong there. Must be 7-0.
Luke, I'm going to come to you for your score prediction if I can.
I've said 2-0 in the chat predictions, and I'm going to stick with that. I think if we do, like I say, if do the basics right, we win our 1v1 battles, and we just stay tight at the back and don't get caught out with that long ball. I think we'll do well not to concede, and 2-0. Armour get 2, add to his tally already, and let's get that golden boot cemented early doors.
Hey. And Tom, our debutant, your first pre-match prediction, what's it going to be?
Originally, I think Luke mentioned the prediction league we've got. I put 1-0 in that, but I think I'm going to change that now to 2-1. I think Millwall are going to pause the threat. I think an early goal and then a second goal at the start of the second half. But as Millwall throw them forward, they score from a corner in the 85th minute, but we hold on to make it 2-1.
Cool. Well, I am sticking to my 1-0 prediction that I've done in the Rovers chat. There's still just a little niggle I've got in my head about teams coming and frustrating us. So I'm going to go 1-0 though. I think we are going to get over the line. I think it'll be a set piece. I could see a free kick or a corner or something like that, or even a penalty. I can see 1-0 set piece victory. Right, so Dan, I hope you are braced to go through these comments from all the Rovers fans with their score prediction. The first one I have got here is Anthony Towers, who has predicted 2-1 Rovers. Lee B, 1989, 3-1, Armour 2, Brereton 1, Alexander Haben, 3-1 Rovers. Ollie James, 1-1, Armour with a Rovers goal. Abby Sahar, it's 1-0 or a 4-0, depends on how we start. Michael Pearson, 1-0, Nervy most likely. Just to pick up a comment from Stand and Stare, can't let them into our half too much. Imagine TM will be vocal tonight. Ryan Lambert, 2-0 Rovers, Johnson and Brereton to bag. Leap Year Man, Bell's pace is useful against Jed Wallace, who plays a lot from the right. Then moving down, Leap Year Man, I want to be positive and go for 2-1 Rovers, but can easily see a 1-1 or 0-0. Patience key for tonight. Gaz Israel, tough physical battle ahead tonight, hoping for an early goal and to run out 2-0 winners. Alexander Haben, a variety of different attacks from Rovers will be required. Got to test their defence and find the weaknesses. Stand and Stare, 2-1 Rovers in an ideal world, or more likely a hard-fought 1-1. Anthony Towers, I was going 2-0 with Wharton, but with Ayala 2-1. Jack Hamer 2-1. So quite a lot of positivity from the Rovers fans. So we know how this is poised and set up. This is Blackburn Rovers, but we did say the same thing on Saturday, and it turned out all right. So hopefully we don't get put through the ringer like we did against Barnsley. So I just want to see a solid, get the job done type performance. None of this nonsense that they put us through the ringer in the last 5 minutes. Let's just get the job done and have a nice night. That's the order of the day.
Does it help when Alex says that they're going to equalise and make it 2-2 in the 90th minute?
Yeah.
I'm on pins then for the last 5.
He was nearly banned from the live streams forever.
Yeah.
So
permanent ban. I'd have never lived that down. I'd have felt like I jinxed my own team. Although the reverse psychology worked well that day, so yeah.
Yeah, let's go with that.
That's it. Well, we will end the stream there. So, Tom, I'm going to thank you first for joining us. Thanks ever so much for making your debut. I hope you've enjoyed yourself, mate.
Yeah, it's been good. Like I said, something different to the podcast, but happy to be on whenever you need me. Just someone to chat rubbish, really, aren't I? So,
and just tell Rovers fans about the podcast. It got released very recently, didn't it?
Yeah, so there was one that Andy Watson Sport did, which is a great podcast. Obviously, there's a stats show as well. We've got one coming up, which yours truly and Alex is on, which is just a general question one. And we're hoping to get recording again more regularly every 2 weeks. Obviously, we always appreciate everyone's input with them. So, questions you've got, just keep them coming.
Yeah. So, yeah, Rovers fans, the 1875 podcast is still a massive part of the Rovers Chat site. So, if you've not listened to the podcast before, they are brilliant. They do a great job. So, subscribe to our channel, keep up to date on Twitter, and you'll see when Tom, Alex, and Andy are releasing things there. Luke, there were no crazy predictions today, so I think you're not going to be Hall of Fame in it, are you? But thanks for joining us again, mate.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Always is. But I like to put on record that I called the Doncaster FA Cup tie. So
yes, you did.
Mystic Kimberley keeps going.
I need to give you access to my betting account, honestly.
Trust me, you don't.
Brilliant. And Alex, thanks for joining us again, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Thank you very much.
It's been noted that you've predicted us to win, so we will revisit that. Brilliant.
Yeah,
so Rovers,
it'll be my fault again, won't it, if we get beat? So yeah, there we go.
Well, you put yourself in these positions, so
Yeah,
I've got no sympathy for you, mate. So Rovers fans, if you're not following us on Twitter, it is Rovers_chat, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rovers Chat, to stay up to date with all of our live content. So we will end it there. You've got about 35 minutes, isn't it, to go and get the match ordered if you haven't done so already. We will be back live at around 10 p.m. post-match. So please do join us if you're still up. We will dissect the game as we usually do. But yeah, we will leave you with our sponsor, 6yardsout.com. See you later.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.